Coalition panelists. Can you tell us a little bit about yourselves, your organization, your role, what you do, and what drew you or what motivated you to this work?
Good morning again, everyone. I'm Nika. So I work for a program called ParentChild. It's an agency. I'm the site coordinator for North Philadelphia cohort. So I work with families primarily in North Philadelphia. So what do? I supervise home visitors, and we work with families and children ages 16 months through like 4 in the registry school. So we support the parent in finding the relationship through literacy. What drew me to this work? Home visiting work, well, I worked in child care for a long time, different daycare centers, and just wanted a different change, and I wanted to work more in the community. So, suddenly to home visiting, I got to go into all of the most underserved communities and support those families, which drew me to the IPV work. Was that a lot of times you see situations, you see things happening, and you don't always know how to identify it or how to name it. And so proper training, when we heard about this starting up, proper training and knowing how to go in and notice what you see, offer the proper resources to families. I want to be able to do that to all that everyone said that as well. That's what I'm doing.
Getting notes from the back that it's hard to hear, so speak up.
Hello.
Yeah,
Okay. Thanks, Kim. My name is Christina. I am the Director of Specialized Home Visiting at Maternity Care Coalition. So I oversee our Department of Specialized Programming. What that means for MCC is our programs serve individuals and families that have a history of either substance use disorder or they have a history of incarceration. So they are either currently incarcerated or they're in re-entry. Just as a general, what drew me to the work is I think I just wanted a job that I cared about. For a long time, I wasn't sure what I wanted to do, but I always had the passion for, different communities, and I thought, well, if I have that kind of passion in my personal life, I might be really good at it in a professional world. So that's kind of what drew me to that. And then as far as IPV, it was really just an opportunity to learn and grow at first. The opportunity came maybe about 2 years ago. And then as my role as director, it was the opportunity to serve my programs and to support them. So I was just really excited to be able to do that.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Adrienne. Hello. My name is Adrienne Edwards. I too am from Maternity Care Coalition. I work in our Mobile Family Therapy program, and that program is an enhancement program to the home visiting programs that are available at Maternity Care Coalition. And what we do is we offer free therapy, mental health therapy, to any client that is enrolled in any of the programs, home visiting programs at Maternity Care Coalition. So we offer family therapy, individual therapy, and also couples, depending on the client's needs. I am a licensed professional counselor associate. I'm a few hours short of full licensure in the state of Pennsylvania, so I'm excited about that. And what brought me to this work as a domestic violence specialist champion, is what we call it. One is partly like lived experience. I have not experienced intimate partner violence, but I've experienced domestic violence in just the home, the family home that I lived in for a short period of time. And so that I think kind of sparked this fire in me around the topic of domestic violence and just how it shows up and how it also impacts those that are connected to the survivors. Because I was a part of the ripple effect of the survivor. So I wasn't the one directly being affected, but I was still affected, if that makes sense. And then, in addition to that, in my time in graduate school, I had the opportunity to do my internship and practicum at an organization in Montgomery County called Laurel House. And so they provide the support, shelter, counseling, so many different programs to individuals experiencing domestic violence. And so during my time at that internship, it just sparked that fire even more. I learned so much more about how isolating domestic violence is, how stigmatized that it is. And so once I came to Maternity Care Coalition, I heard about the opportunity to be a part of this training and the collaboration. I knew that this was something that I really wanted to be a part of, because I just wanted to be a part of supporting others and clients with this, with domestic violence and IPV. I also looked at it as an opportunity to learn more about how I can show up as a better ally and advocate to the clients that I serve clinically. And lastly, I'll say that, so prior to my role as a therapist at Maternity Care Coalition, I was a home visiting advocate in one of the home visiting programs. And when I look back, I think about it, at the time when I decided that I wanted to be a part of this collaborative, I was like, you know what, I really can see that, like missed opportunities. And so I won't go too far because I feel like I'm answering the question, but that's a little bit about me and why I became an IPV specialist.
Good morning, everyone. First of all, thank y'all for coming. We do appreciate the support in the room. My name is Matt Taylor. Many of you know me as the paralegal on the FAIR project. Today, I will be speaking as a consultant for the NNCC in the area of domestic violence. Nothing that I say should be construed as legal advice. So now we got the formalities out the way. I started my legal career in victim services almost 9 years ago. It's something I'm very passionate about, and I'm passionate about helping people, so when opportunity presented itself, I wanted to do it to first improve my own skills and improve the service I can provide to clients and in the community. So I don't have as interesting stories as my colleagues up here that are out in the homes every day and providing that great leadership. So that is my answer.
Thank you all. So in terms of, since you've been a part of this program, I know you kind of all got into it because you had some either personal experience or you've seen it in your professional life, so you knew that TV was an issue that was often faced by your clients and others you know. So how has your perspective or your approach toward DV changed as since being part of this program? And I think if you could go back in time, and what would you have told yourself, or what would you have done differently in your role if you knew what you do now?
So, if I could go back in time with what I know now, it would be to understand that I don't need to go on with all the answers. I don't need to go on with solutions. I need to go in giving as many resources as possible. Because through resources makes more connections. Through resources bring other people into the home. It brings other connections, and it gives the clients more opportunities to speak out about what they may be facing or to let you know what they need. So I think it would just be to go in and not feel like I have to solve their situation right there on the spot. But you know what? No, I can provide resources. I can free to come back. I can always ask, what would you like, or how can I support you, or what do you need? And I think that's what I would do. Since being on this team, I think one of the things that I've learned from them all is that they all have situations specific to them. They have their own things that may happen when I'm doing home visits. Maybe I've never seen it before, so I don't know exactly how to approach it. But when talking to them, they may have seen situations before, and they may have some things that work that I can take back out to the clients.
When I think about that question, and I think about Adrian, what you touched on about missed opportunities, and I think that comes from probably a lot of things, but I think it comes from not being comfortable with the work and not being able to have just tough conversations in general, and knowing that you're not going to get good at having those tough conversations unless you have the practice. So just making the client or the family or the parent to bring something to me, and then I would feel confident, like, oh, okay, like I know I have the resource, I can talk to you about this, but I'm sure that there was just lots of missed opportunities because I wasn't comfortable either navigating or starting those questions or just, having conversations. And it's not to say that every time you initiate a conversation that it's going to go exactly the way that you want to, or that the client that you're working with is going to be an open book, the first time you meet them or the first time you're having these conversations. But I think just having the confidence and being able to kind of sit in that kind of level of like, the first few times that I'm doing this, it is going to be a little bit uncomfortable, and that's okay. We all do a lot of trainings. We probably have done different levels of like trauma-informed trainings and things like that. And they're so important, but unless you're putting what you've learned into actual practice, you're just going to be not the most confident in those spaces.
I would say for myself, the one thing that I had to change my practice on from the training was I'm very solution oriented, right? So I would work with a survivor and be like, okay, well, you have option A, B, and C, which one works for you? And I think what I learned going through the training, we did an exercise, and we basically simulated leaving an abusive relationship. And I was just like, man, I've been doing this thing wrong for years. Like, for me, it was just like, if they leave, they may not have childcare, or they don't know how their rent is going to be paid. And just to see the failures in the system as a whole, trying to help somebody, I was just like, I have to meet my clients where they're at. Today, they may not want to leave. So my goal changes, right? It's not to help them leave, it's help them maintain their safety, their mental stability until they can get to a better place. And there's no right or wrong answer. And I think for a long period of time, I had that perspective got lost in me trying to find a solution. Like, my solution was the goal, but sometimes they don't need a solution at that moment. Their solution is just to live till tomorrow. So I would say that's the one thing that has changed my perspective.
And for me, I would say it's the importance of safety planning, and it not just with the resources, but just having conversations with clients about emotional safety planning, that day-to-day safety planning, like really practical steps. That's definitely one thing that I lacked in the training. I had heard of safety planning prior to the training, but the training really, we honed in on that, and it helped me to see just different ways that I could offer safety planning and have a conversation with clients. And then other than that, I would say just the power of presence, similar to what some of them have said. It's like I don't have to solve the issue. So just knowing that my presence and availability is so powerful, and I feel like Kalina kind of touched on that as well. And I'm in the home, I have that relationship with them, and knowing that a lot of times that is enough in a sense. That's such a powerful role that we can play as home visitors. Thank you.
Thank you all. Yeah, I was gonna kind of similarly, hearing so many similarities between what Kalina mentioned and then what you all are saying now, that I think that it is just enough to be there and to be able to, I think, speak up or to think about how you might support someone before there is a red flag or a physical warning sign or something, but to be there when those small things pop up, and to just know that as someone who has a long-term relationship with the person, that you might be the only one who is there to offer that support, how important that is. Our last question, I think it's clear, you've all kind of touched on it, in math especially, the role of the system, right? This is, you have one role, there are many other supports that survivors and their families might need. So it's clear that a strong infrastructure of supports is needed. So what has this role taught you about cross-sector collaboration?
That in order to do this work, you cannot work in silence. It is so important that you know who your contact should be, you know what those resources are, and to know that each member of the family needs something different. So it's knowing who to go to, who to reach out to, in order to support the family. So that's what I got, just knowing the other organizations and knowing how to contact the city, knowing how to reach out to Lutheran, know how to contact those domestic violence lines. All of those things are important. So I got some.
Yeah, no, I would love to hear if you could expand, like, knowing the right organizations. Was there anything that you felt like, if someone wants to, like, how did you get there, or anything that you did that helped you get a better understanding of what they were?
So, Courdea is here. Sometimes you go into a home and the families, the solution is not that someone wants to leave. They want to stay together. They want to be with that person who is the abuser, and that abuser may love that victim. So it's not always the answer is to give you develop your safety plans that you can leave. It may be a safety plan to stay and to stay forever and to raise your children together. It's going through this training. I'm sorry, I stutter a lot. I apologize, but it's going through this training with all of them. We met Tony.
Yeah.
Tony, and when he came and I was thinking the whole time, how about people who want to stay together, they don't want to leave? And he came and talked about those resources to support the person, I won't say the man, because we always say it's the man that's the abuser, but the person that's doing the abuse, and the men, and how to get them the resources that they need in order to stay. So that's probably the biggest impact when I work with young families. And I have families that are 18-year-old moms and 19-year-old dads, and fighting is normal for them. They think it's normal, it's regular, and it's not. They think it's okay for the children to see. They think the bad language is okay. And what I got from said, okay, everyone doesn't want to leave, but there are organizations like Courdea that you can reach out to and connect those young men to, or those persons to continue to stay and to work on themselves within the relationship. Hope that answers the question.
I didn't know I was going to ask a follow-up.
I think that when we're talking about how it's, we can't just work in silence, I think taking it a step above that is participating in things like this, events like this, this collaboration that we have. Like, I would have never had this relationship with Matt. MCC uses the fair project, so I probably would have known his name just based on that, but the fact that I get to see him and I get to talk to him and I really have a deeper understanding of what his role is, and the same thing with Anita. So I think that to collaborate is really to get to know each other and really to get to know our different programs beyond just, we all have our list of resources and needs and numbers that we call upon, but again, what are beyond the surface level things? So many of our organizations, even NCC, like we have a tagline of we serve pregnant and parenting women, but what else do we do? And that really can't be captured in like a couple sentences. That's going to be captured in somebody sitting down and having a conversation with me or with Cora or with Adrian to really explain the ways that we truly can support families that, again, may not be super obvious if you're just like looking at our website or looking at, our name on the list of resources. So just making an effort to really, really, truly connect with each other, I think is what takes us out of those silos.
This is one of those topics that one of my colleagues will probably have to pitch me, tell me to shut up, because I'm very passionate about it. The one thing I think we benefit here in the city of Philadelphia is there is a lot of resources, right? So if you don't know about the Office of Shared Safety in the city of Philadelphia, and as Linda back there, you're doing your stuff in your organization a disservice. I can't tell you the times like I've been involved in a case or a consultation, and I'm like, it's outside of my scope, but wait, who else can do something? And I have to send an email. Or it's a case where we can do one part, but there's this whole other gap, and all of our goal is to see that survivor get back to a place that they were before the victimization. So to do that, there may be a legal need, there may be a housing need, and you really have sometimes, you can send somebody to an organization, but if you have that relationship and you can send that email saying, hey, I had this client that needs X, Y, and Z. Can I send them directly to you, or can I set up a conference call? That one, it reassures that survivor in that moment that you're dedicated to their success. And it's also, it tries to help navigate the system, because I can tell you, there are some times, like, as a legal advocate, at times I just like, the system is broken. Like, I get frustrated with trying to navigate through the system. This is someone that's dealing with trauma, dealing with abuse, don't know where they're gonna lay their head at tonight, don't know where the next meal is coming from. And then we're going to yet make another call and disclose everything they just disclosed to us by themselves. I think it's unfair, I think it's an injustice. So to the part I can, I do that, and I do that by maintaining relationships. Like, I knew of Maternity Care Coalition, but I didn't know all that they did. And sometimes when I have a question, I call Christina, because we were in check. We did the training, what, 3 years ago now? 3 years ago now, when it was 40 hours, not 25. But, no shame. But, it's all about relationships. And if let's be honest, nobody in this room does this work for money. Let's just be honest. We do it because we want to make a difference. So if we want to really make a difference, we have to invest in those relationships. So there's times I go to events, do I really feel like going to an after-work event? No, but I know there's going to be people in the room that I want to shake their hand, give them a business card, introduce myself so I can better serve our clients.
That was good.
So I'm really passionate about like direct service and like clients. So a lot of the times when I think about things, I filter through that, like, what's going to benefit the client, right? So one of the things that is so powerful to me about cross-collaboration is that it empowers our clients to take action in their lives when they're ready, right? And in a more like independent way if that's what they want to do. So for example, I have a client that I'm working with. I've probably been working with her for maybe over a year, I would say. She's in an abusive relationship. She has children, she has a lot that's connected to her abuser, right? And so when I first started working with her, if any of you are familiar with the stages of change, she was probably in like pre-contemplation, somewhere between pre-contemplation and contemplation. And so we were working together for many months, session after session, but she was just not ready. She was not ready to take the step to leave the relationship or the home environment. And for many reasons and for many valid reasons. So while that could almost feel frustrating to me at times, because in my head it's just like, you gotta get out of here, like it'll be better for your kids, ACEs, I'm thinking about all the stuff that I know. And kind of like to what he said, it's just like we can't be like, what we want for them can't trump where they are. And so the strategy that I had to take was providing resources. So having knowledge about organizations in the community that she can connect to, that could support her, information about even support groups, right? Like that she could call, it's Women's Center, I believe it is. So we would have a section where I gave her, we talked about resources. It wasn't, we were at a point where she was clear about what she was experiencing. She wasn't like in the dark about that, but she was tied to so many different things. So I was able to give her different resources so she could know where to go, who to call. Now we're at the point where she, in her own process and on her own journey, is now saying things to me like, yeah, such and such happened the other day, and I gave Lutheran a call, right? Just to ask questions, right? She didn't do that with me, but she was armed with that information. And so the power of cross-collaboration and knowing about the different resources and building those connections is that we can empower our clients, but also, and also support them for whenever they become ready. I had another client who was like, yeah, I called this particular number that you gave me, and they said this or that. Me having really a relationship with, Lutheran House is not here right now, but I really adore Lutheran House, amazing organization. But I was able to call or email directly Scott over at Lutheran House to kind of like try to bridge that gap, right? So it's like kind of what Matt is saying, have building those relationships and just also knowing where to point the direction to put your clients in, and just arming them with that information so they can feel like they have some type of control over their own story. Because what DV and IPV does, there's somebody else trying to control them and assert power and control, and it can just be very discouraging. So.
Thank you. You so beautifully, all of you beautifully articulated the survivor-centered approach that I think is central to this training that you all went through, just in terms of being a presence, being comfortable with difficult situations, asking when you feel like it is the right time to ask, and then being there if someone does disclose, and being ready to offer some resources, never pushing, but having them and knowing that these are some places where you could get support for what you need, and letting the survivor lead during all of that. There's one more question I'm going to ask, and then we're going to see if anyone in the audience has any questions. You all have, I think, Adrian, you started talking about it's difficult when someone might not want to leave, or when they might not want to take the resource or the suggestion that you might be offering, that weighs on you, right? As the provider, as the person who is there for this client, for this family. Is there any way that you're kind of taking care of yourself, or that you're reminding yourself during all this that maybe others could learn from in similar situations? Either you or others, if you've experienced this.
For me, I would say just understanding what your role is working with the family. I think back you said it, or a couple have said it. Our goal isn't to make the parent or our client leave their abusive partner. We're talking about empowerment. Our goal is to empower the choices that they're making, let them know that there's other choices available, but they may not go with the choice that you lay out for them, and that's okay. And also, in the stage that you're working with them, they may be I'm thinking a lot because I do the substance use, like stages of change, They may be in that pre-contemplation stage where they're thinking about leaving, maybe they're not ready, and that may just be the relationship that you have with them. And just because they don't maybe make as big of strides as you would have hoped, doesn't mean that you're not making an impact on what their life is. If they go on to another program and they're working with another case manager or an advocate, the work that you've done with them is still sitting with them. They're taking those little nuggets. So maybe 6 months down the line, they are ready to make those changes. And what led to that is everything that they have done beyond that, like the work that they do with you, whether the home visiting program or with the therapist. And just every person that is working with that family is making an impact on them. So again, even if it's not the choice or the way that you wanted to see the situation go, doesn't mean that you're not doing your job or having a really, really great impact on the family. And I think you just have to remind yourself of that.
One of my self-care go-tos, other than kind of just disconnecting, just in my own personal space and taking that time to decompress, is utilizing my supervisor. She's actually here in these rooms. She didn't know I was going to do that. But I utilize my supervision to talk about experiencing with a client, like, or in our sessions, or how even some of the things I'm struggling with that might be triggering me, like as I work with a client. So like supervision is big, or I don't really know how if everyone has like regular supervision, but even outside of that, talking to coworkers and just having that one or two people where you know you can go to just decompress and kind of like process and reflect on what you're experiencing with the client.
I would just add, for myself, I know when I'm working with a client, I take it very personal. And sometimes that's a blessing and a curse. So what I do is I also utilize my supervision. But sometimes I'll just call one of my colleagues and say, hey, I need to be brief from this. And then sometimes I'm just like, you know what, that's it for today. I have no more to give. So I would encourage you all to know your limitations. And when you get to that limit, it's okay to say, I'm mentally not here to do it anymore. Because you're going to have that case. I would love to tell you that domestic violence is going to be eradicated, but unfortunately that's not what statistics show us right now. So, and you're going to have that case, you're going to be like, give us something, what do I do? And like they're going to be perplexed. You utilize your supervisor, be honest of where you're at in that moment, and I tell people that do this work, have a physical safety plan while you're doing this work, and have a mental health safety plan while you're doing this work, so you can always be available to do this work.
And so, I used to believe that you would don't take your work home, right? When it happens at work, do it at work, and you go home and don't take your work home. Well, I partly work from home, so the work is always home. But to be honest with you, supervision, reflective supervision, all those things, yes. The very first thing I do, and it may be very corny, when I'm experiencing a situation with family that's really hurtful, and I'm a crybaby, so I do, I get in my car and I cry. I pray first. I stop and I pray first because you have to, because some things you can't imagine that people are experiencing and going through. And then, of course, you call your supervisor, you call your colleagues, maybe you call one of your IPV champion collaborators and get to speak with them. But you do, but that's how I take care of myself.
I think we have some time for any audience questions. Kalina, do you want to come back up here? We have another. Oh, is there another chair over there?